In the Pokemon TCG, energy cards are usually required to use a Pokemon's attack, both in the form of basic energy for each of the game's types, and with special energy, which can have additional positive effects and or provide more than 1 unit of energy. However, you're only allowed to manually attach 1 energy card per turn. So in this list, we'll go over the best special energy cards used in Pokemon standard formats throughout the years. And at number 10, we have Double Dragon Energy. This energy can only be attached to a Dragon-type Pokemon, but in return can provide 2 of every type of energy, but only 2 at a time. While there haven't been many Dragon-type Pokemon printed, due to only being introduced as a new type in the TCG starting in Dragons Exalted, Double Dragon Energy has still provided quite the utility to decks looking to resist the strong Mega Evolutions of the time, such as the new and extremely powerful Mega Rayquaza EX and the Emerald Break attack, by providing 2 or 4 energy required on Giratina EX for Chaos Wheel. This attack does 100 damage and locks your opponent from activating Pokemon tools, attaching special energy, or using stadium cards from their hand on their next turn. While it seems weak on its own, this was paired with the Max Elixir, allowing additional attachments from your deck to fuel the last 2 colorless energy needed for the attack requirement, and allowing you to not have to cram your deck full of basic grass and psychic type energy for a situationally good attacker. This combination of cards helped Shunto Sadahiro win the 2016 World Championships in the Junior Division. Despite Double Dragon Energy fueling a very strong answer to X and Y's main multi-prize mechanic, it really only did this one job. Other special energy cards managed to do their one job either better than Double Dragon Energy, or have more utility in multiple decks, resulting in the card only receiving the 10th spot on this list. And at number 9, we have Boost Energy. This is a card that has the effect of providing 3 units of colorless energy, but only on evolved Pokemon, and only for a single turn, as it must be discarded at the end of the turn that it's attached. Despite these major downsides, Boost Energy saw heavy play in decks that required 3 colorless energy as part of their attack costs, such as Gardevoir EX, which needed 1 Psychic and 3 colorless to power Psystorm, an attack that does 10 damage times the number of energy attached to all Pokemon on the field. There's an important distinction here, as energy means that since Boost Energy provides 3 units of energy, that's an additional 30 damage done to the opponent, rather than if the attack said energy cards, in which case it would only do an additional 10 damage. This was an important card for the time, as it ensured that in the mirror match, you could hit for a massive amount of damage, while ensuring your opponent didn't have much energy to add damage to your side of the board with. A few other decks could take advantage of the extra energy, such as Aquapolis Executor, but the heavy downsides, despite giving 3 units for 1 attachment, means it's not good enough to take a very high spot on this list. And at number 8, we have Double Turbo Energy. DTE has the ability to provide 2 units of colorless energy, but at the cost of reducing your Pokemon's damage output by 20 points. Since being printed in Brilliant Stars, DTE has been in many decks, as many Pokemon have colorless energy costs for attacks, and being able to get more than 1 unit of energy from attachment usually means it's a good card. As recent as the 2022 Peoria Regional Championships, Double Turbo was seen at 4 copies per deck in 21 of the top 50 players at the event, as it can power up attacks in several key strategies revolving around Hisuian Zorak V-Star, Arceus V-Star, and Mew VMAX, as all of these decks features Pokemon with energy cost of 2 colorless energy, powering them up in 1 turn. Despite only having been printed very recently as of recording this video, it has appeared in topping lists during nearly every regional, international, and world championship it's been standard legal for, and likely won't be changing soon. And at number 7, we have Rainbow Energy. This energy has the effect where it provides a single unit of any type of energy at the cost of doing 10 damage to the Pokemon it's attached to. This simple card helped many decks that wanted to play multiple types of Pokemon to be more consistent, as now you didn't have to draw into both the attacker of choice and the energy that was needed to pay the attack cost, but rather the attacker and the Rainbow Energy. Originally printed in the 4th ever set in Team Rocket, Rainbow Energy was most often seen in Rainmaker strategies that use the movie promo Mewtwo as well as Hitmonchan for versatility in attackers and for hitting weaknesses on certain Pokemon, such as opposing Hitmonchans and Electabuzzes. While not as efficient as Double Colorless Energy, as it only provided 1 energy, Rainbow still provided a good amount of utility to these decks. However, Rainbow was printed not just during the base set era, but also saw play in the Heart Gold and Soul Silver era, namely in Ross Cawthon's 2011 World Championship winning deck known as the Truth, combining Donphan's Prime's Earthquake attack to do 60 damage to your opponent's Pokemon, as well as 10 damage to your bench. Normally, this is a negative effect, but combined with Zekrom's Outrage attack, requiring double colorless energy for 20 damage plus 10 for each damage counter in Zekrom, made for massive follow-up damage. And at number 6, we have Capture Energy. This energy has the effect where it provides 1 unit of colorless energy, but when attached can search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it directly into your bench. This is a really strong effect that increases consistency in a number of strategies. As turn 1 during the Sword and Shield era, you're unable to use supporter cards during that turn. So gaining added consistency and setting up your utility Pokemon with Sobble for future shady dealings or various attackers, while also paying for a portion of a beater's attack cost, can help to provide decks who need the added consistency with easy access to their plays. One of the main decks that uses Capture Energy the most is Astral Radiance Regigigas, whose effect Ancient Wisdom required a combination of all 6 Regi monsters out in play to be alive, which has the incredible effect of allowing you to attach any 3 energy cards from your discard pile to any one Pokemon once per turn, as long as you had its activation conditions met. By combining this, Ultra Ball and Quick Ball, 2 other cards that allowed you to search out more Regi cards, Regigigas players had a combined 12 ways of accessing their monsters without having to hard draw all of them, making a deck that relies on having 6 individual monsters out at the same time rather consistent despite the inconsistent sounding premise. And at number 5, we have Strong Energy. This energy has the effect that it provides 1 unit of fighting energy and makes the Pokemon Strong Energy is attached to do 20 more damage, but it can only be attached to a fighting type Pokemon. While semi-niche, Strong Energy helped enable many mid-level attackers to yield the damage necessary to put previous metagame threats on notice. Generally, you want to be KOing your opponent's Pokemon in a profitable way, and damage modifiers tend to help in that department, especially when the only thing a deck is missing is hitting a certain damage threshold to KO certain meta-warping Pokemon. One of the most recent examples was Power Tablet, a card that allows your Fusion Strike Pokemon to do an additional 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. This helped facilitate damage thresholds in Mew VMAX decks, as their signature boss monster's attack, Cross Fusion Strike, copies a bench Fusion Strike Pokemon's attack. This normally is either Genesect V Technoblast for 210 damage, or Meloetta's Melodious Echo for 70 damage times the number of Fusion Strike energy attached to all of your Pokemon, usually also being 210 thanks to the supporter card Elisa Sparkle attaching 2 Fusion Strike energies from your deck, along with a third from a manual attachment. These both would hit just shy of knocking out key Pokemon V such as Arceus, Duraludon, and Galarian Moltres, but thanks to Power Tablet, you were able to not only hit these Pokemon V for one-hit knockouts, but by stacking multiple Power Tablet, you can hit damage thresholds like 280 for knockouts of top-tier V-Star Pokemon, like Arceus and Origin Form Palkia, or 310 for powerful 3 prize VMAX Pokemon like Jolteon or Umbreon. While Strong Energy saw play alongside numerous fighting types like Hawlucha, Lycanroc GX, Donphan, and Primal Groudon, 2 decks in particular saw heavy meta representation and eventual World Championship tops due to the extra power from Strong Energy. Landorus EX revolved around using this card paired with Fighting Stadium, which provided an extra 20 damage on top of Strong Energy, which in itself could stack and make sure that Landorus could attack for consistent 2-hit KOs across the board, with the help of Phantom Force's Crobat to do spread damage. Buzzwole GX didn't have Fighting Stadium to help with additional damage, though Regirock EX with the ability Regi Power acted as half of the stadium, providing an extra 10 damage to your fighting Pokemon, ensuring that Buzzwole could profitably prize trade with opponents that were attempting to evolve into their GX boss monsters of choice, especially with the prominence of the fighting weak Zoroark GX due to its trade-in ability. And at number 4, we have Double Rainbow Energy. This energy has the effect where it provides any type of energy, but only 2 at a time in any combination, with that Pokemon that's attached to doing 10 less damage after applying weaknesses and resistance modifiers. Being released in March 2004 in the EX Team Magma vs Team Aqua expansions, a strong 2-for-1 in terms of attachment was very rare ever since Double Colorless Energy, though despite it seemingly being a power creep version of the original Rainbow Energy, this was balanced through only being usable by evolved Pokemon, making it so basic Pokemon and Pokemon EX were unable to harness this strong attack fuel option. However, decks that could take advantage of Double Rainbow Energy made for strong contenders, ranging from EX Ruby and Sapphire Gardevoir, which does 10 damage times the amount of energy on both Gardevoir and your opponent's defending Pokemon, essentially mitigating the slight downside of Double Rainbow, all the way to Diamond and Pearl and Empoleon, fueling the entirety of an Aqua Jet attack by your second turn when matched with Water Energy attachment and a rare candy to evolve from Piplup and straight into Empoleon. Likely the most successful deck that played Double Rainbow was Queendom, a Nidoqueen and Pidgeot-focused deck that won the 2005 World Championship by helping fuel Nidoqueen's Power Lariat. An attack with 1 fighting and 2 colorless does 40 damage plus 10 damage for each evolved Pokemon that you have in play, giving additional utility to Pidgeot, whose Poke Power allows you to search for any 1 card from your deck and put it into your hand, giving the deck a rock-solid resource loop. However, this card wasn't the best when it came to Stage 1 and Stage 2 strategies, as another very strong energy card beats this one out by a bit. And at number 3, we have Scramble Energy. This energy has the effect where it provides a single unit of colorless energy, but if you have more prizes left than your opponent, it can provide 3 of any type of energy in any combination. This extremely powerful effect was, akin to the previous entry, only limited to evolved Pokemon, incentivizing the usage of Stage 1 and 2 decks. Scramble Energy also provided something not directly written on the card, that being the threat of an instant power-up of any attacker on the bench. So it was important during the years this card was standard legal to ensure you set up effectively before taking prizes. Otherwise, your opponent would have an easy recovery option without expending many resources. In fact, this is one of the reasons players say that the EX format of the time requires much skill, as you have to pick the time to break the stalemate and activate your opponent's dormant Scramble Energy. One of the strongest decks that took advantage of this was known as Rye Eggs, revolving around Delta Raichu and Delta Executor, both exploiting heavy reliance on Pokepowers, a common occurrence during the spring and summer of 2006, and forcing opponents to walk into Scramble Energy's activation requirement, giving it enough power necessary to win the US National Championship that year. One of the most powerful decks Scramble Energy helped to enable was known as Bombtar, an Electro EX and Dark Tyranitar focused strategy that revolved around using Electrode's extra energy bomb attack to KO itself and attach 5 energy cards from the discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you'd like, including Special Energy, both giving your opponent the prize advantage to power Scramble Energy and powering up multiple threats at the same time. Scramble Energy even saw success going into the Diamond and Pearl era, as while paired with Gallade and Gardevoir from Secret Wonders, this card could single-handedly power up either of their strongest attacks in order to take knockouts quickly and effectively, while locking your opponent out of using Pokepowers with the latter. However, the stalemate still occurred, so in order to break said stalemates, Jirachi EX was used as an additional way to force your opponent out of Pokepowers by using Shield Beam, an attack which disabled your opponent's bench Pokemon from using powers, forcing the need for a knockout, as without Pokepowers, it's very difficult to set up your attackers for later in the game. This would force your opponent to expend more resources than normal while also feeling the requirement for Scramble Energy, manipulating the resource trade and eventually allowing you to pull ahead on the prize trade and win the game. And at number 2, we have Call Energy. This card has the effect where it provides colorless energy, then, once during your turn, if the Pokemon Call Energy is attached to is in the active spot, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. Then end your turn if you do. Now, this card was seen in just about every deck during the 4 main standard formats that it was legal from 2008 to 2011, as during this time, supporter cards were not allowed to be played on turn 1. So the first turn player would usually have less resources to rely on in order to get their plays going. Despite the downside of ending your turn, Call Energy gave access to the player going first just as powerful plays without a supporter, as this could search more Pokemon than once per turn supporters, like Celio's Network or Bebe's Search, and just as many as Roseanne's Research. In addition, since you're unable to attack going first, you would only activate Call Energy as the last action of your turn, making the downside have minimal impact. While Call Energy does diminish its usefulness the longer a game goes, it still provides a single unit of colorless energy, a requirement that just about every useful attacker in the game at this time had as part of the attack costs, such as Mewtwo Level X, Stormfront Machamp, and Secret Wonders Gallade, to name a few. Despite being able to bench Pokemon like Baltoy for Cosmic Power Claydol plays to draw cards, or the basic Pokemon that your main attacker revolves around, it isn't the best special energy around simply due to only being printed one time. And finally, at number 1, we have Double Colorless Energy. This card is very simple but very powerful, being a single energy attachment that provides 2 units of colorless energy. The act of getting 2 energy from one attachment was extremely powerful during the first few sets of the game, where Double Colorless was the only card that could provide more than 1 unit until the release of Miracle Energy in the Neo Destiny expansion, 3 years after Double Colorless Energy was first released in the base set. DCE, as it's often abbreviated, was played with numerous strategies at the time, as Charizard could use it to power up its Fire Spin in 2 turns, using its Pokemon Power Energy Burn to turn them into Fire Energy. Chansey could either use 1 to power its Scrunch, a move that allows you to flip a coin, and if heads, prevent all effects including damage done to Chansey while it's on the active spot, or 2 to use Double Edge, a powerful move with 80 base damage that KOs many strong Pokemon at the time, such as the popular Haymaker trio of Scyther, Electabuzz, and Hitmonchan. The base set era wasn't the only time this card was printed though, as DCE saw reprints in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Next Destinies, XY base set, Phantom Forces, Fates Collide, Evolutions, Sun and Moon base set, and Guardians Rising, seeing play in every format it appeared. In fact, DCE appeared in at least 1 World Championship winner's deck every year it was legal for standard tournament play from 2010 to 2018. World Championship decks are card-for-card proxy decks for the World Championship or runner-ups from any of the juniors, seniors, or master division, so seeing them in this many of the game's top strategies tends to be a good indicator of a card's power. So for being an excellent card that broke the boundaries of only 1 energy card attachment per turn by providing 2, it's no wonder this card has seen such heavy competitive play that it would find its way in 9 years worth of World Championship decks as one of the strongest attachment options in the game, and that's why it makes it to the first slot of this list. Alright, and that's the list. If you know of any other good cards I may have missed or have ideas for future videos just like this one, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments.